Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark, Guide to the Right Path. So I'm going to talk about this subject this week. It's about relationships, and this is pre-engagement and dating and the issues what come up. Now, as you can see in the background, I'm trying to find out things, and I'm going to talk about a few issues what come up in dating for people. So in this couple's behind me is a mixed race couple, white man, black woman, or whatever ethnicities they are. And I'm going to talk about also other things as well, about also to break stereotypes of what people think is an idealism and get away from these ideas and actually look at how dating actually goes across the board, whatever race, whatever gender, whatever sexuality, whatever your preferences are, and to actually understand this and break it down a lot more. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is some of the common relationships at different stages. So before a relationship becomes official, during dating and approaching engagement, couples often encounter very predictable challenges that could shape the future of their partnership. Here are some of the main issues that tend to arise at each stage. So I'm going to just give you the problem, and then I'm going to give you the solution of how you get around it. So where maybe I've talked about the problems before in my other videos, I'm going to do problem, solution, problem, solution. So this one is predating getting to know each other. So one of the big things most people have is unclear intentions. Intention is everything. And the thing is, it's such a difference from having attention to having intention. So intention is about your inside feelings, your inner knowledge, your inner how you're going to be. Your attention is what you want people to focus on. So the unclear intentions is the uncertainty about whether someone is interested romantically or just being friendly. So we get hear this a lot about people end up being in the friend zone, or we end up with people who want to romantically do something, but they haven't also made it very clear. So is it that they want to date long term? Do they want to date short term? Do they only want to be friends with benefits? All these different things are involved within this. So one of the things I'm going to, and it's going to mix up with the next point, is the uncertainty of whether someone is interested in romantic or just being friendly is to actually ask. Most of this stuff is about asking and having pure communication. So if someone you're interested romantically or they're just being friendly, when you're in the dating or whether you're on a date or whether you're getting to know someone, just ask subtle questions. And it's very, very easy. Don't go into it. So, are you just here to do this? Don't be too blunt. That's what the least people want ever from anyone. It's just gently ask. So, also watch for things like body language. So, for example, if you saw that you were with someone on a date and like the girl started fiddling her hair, twiddling her hair, or doing this, or the man gets a bit nervous where he'll sort of go to kind of like it's like he's got an imaginary gulping complex. Or another thing is also when people are drinking, watch how they hold a glass, how they eat as well. Are they eating when they're looking at you intensely? Do they make sure that they're constantly listening, or are they just making sure only they are talking and the other one has to listen and be barded with that? These are sort of body language things that you can learn a lot about within dating. And this all goes down to one main point: communication styles. Most people, is they're discovering difference in how directly or indirectly you both communicate. Now, myself, although I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm very good at listening and guiding people, and actually a CBT therapist and a psychotherapist, I'm very good at guiding people. And I'm listening and then I'm guiding the person. But in my own private life and in my own personal life, I'm very direct, I'm very open and honest. The reason I am is so that people have no middle ground where they're worried or they don't understand or they miscommunicate or misunderstand something. I'm very direct in what I say. And so even with myself, I will say, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. This is how I want this to be done. This is how I don't want it to be done. And if you are like this, some people find it very difficult because most people are used to people living in a facade or they're living in a different angle. But with myself, I have to be direct. Now, indirectly is very much subtlety. And again, that is you only learn with that is by this listening. If you listen and you can hear with the language of someone, how the intonation is said, that can be different. Also, it's about cultural ideas of understanding jokes, cultural references. Very important. So these are very important ideas in communication. And that's why, for example, if people type, we can misconstrue something because in our writing of our language can be different. If we say something, it's very different, and then how we act on it. So all three could be very different. Like the acting on it is kinesthetic. If we're typing, it's visual, or if we're seeing things, it's visual. But auditory is then also how you're understanding, communicating, whether you're listening or also reading, because when you're reading, you're actually using a mixture of using your visual to understand the auditory to then the kinesthetic for how you take action. So there's another thing. There's a couple more here about this predating to get to know each other. So the pace differences. So one person may want to move faster than the other. And this is about learning balance. And we only get better with this with the experience. Some of us, we're very good. Some people are very quick. They're very quick to onload or offload, right? And some people take a bit of time, and you have to learn that. And that's only through experience. And it's usually from experience of just not dating, but also learning from different people of their communication styles. And that pace difference is just about learning to just take your time and don't be in a rush. Nothing is worse than being with someone who wants to rush and do everything all at once. More or less talking to you about marriage, having children, all these things which are quite a lot of responsibilities. And if you're not ready for it, or you don't even have even the grounding to even prepare for that, it just ruins you. And I've seen it ruin many relationships with clients. So I'm coming from a perspective of absolute open honesty in here of where this goes. The next one, and this one is something I think most people should really not talk about very much in dating, especially pre-dating, is past relationship baggage. This is an unresolved issue from previous relationships, which is affecting their new connections. And I actually deal with a lot of this with clients, people who've had bad relationships, bad experiences, and they bring in this to every other new dating person they're doing, and it's ruined. So that's their problem. The solution is this, is reframing and learn about that when they talk about an ex, the word ex is experience. My ex was like this. My ex, it was that experience you learnt from. But that experience is that person alone. That doesn't mean that everybody you're going to date is going to be the same. So you have to know, this is why reframing and to understand the idea of timeline therapy to change that relationship, that dynamic through therapy, because you cannot just doing it because your conscious will always keep repeating the same thing. You will always keep ending up with very similar people, whereas your subconscious will be then programmed and reframed to go, I see that issue. I don't want to repeat it. And you shouldn't if you have the right therapeutic method done by a practitioner like myself to help you with that. So that I think is very important. And it's something I would honestly say, when you talk about past relationship, what you always should say is, yes, you have an issue with something happened, but you always explain about how you've either done forgiveness or you've learned from it, or that this is what you want, not what you had. And I think that's incredibly important going forward for anybody in relationships or getting in relationships to understand. The next one, establishing boundaries. So learning where each person's comfort zone is. And again, that's very much about pace as well. So the communication style, the pacing of that. And so learning where each comfort zone is incredibly important. How far you can ask things, how far you can do things, how far you can suggest things. You've got to be very much mindful in this, and it's got to be, so the established boundaries is like, for example, yes, you go for dating. You don't want that person keep calling you every 5 minutes at work or whatever that is, whatever your boundaries is, because boundaries are very different for different people. It really is. That's the issue sometimes also when you're dating, you've met someone online. Online dating is probably the most problematic because you've got different time zones, you've got different ways of working, you've got also different cultural differences as well, things what can be said. And that has to be adhered to. And so you have to just make sure you get that correct. And if you do make a mistake and you overstep that boundary, just be prepared to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Sorry, I overstepped the mark. And just again, be in yourself, in your presence, and just learn that's the best way of working. So establishing boundaries, I think, is keenly important, just not in relationships, but actually in friendships, and I think which I will talk about in the next few series, in the next few weeks. So next one is cultural value differences. And I think, again, goes very much into all the previous ones I've just said. It's discovering potential misalignments in background or beliefs. So your background is what is the person you're dating, or what you're bringing to the table. So if you've got negative attitudes of relationships because you've seen it in your family or family dynamic, you shouldn't be bringing that into a relationship. You should understand that that's there. That was what other people did, and that's not who you are. And the same the other way. Also, backgrounds, if you're into something where you've seen things or you've seen things in the family which have altered you, like altered your perception of relationships. So if you've seen cheating or infidelity, or you've seen, also if you've seen a happy marriage, if you're coming from a happy situation, that you've seen a happy marriage of your parents, you're going to meet someone who's could be of growing up in a very dysfunctional family. You've got to understand that and give that, again, that boundaries of just allowing that healing to happen and allowing that to learn that. And that's just not from just a healer, like a therapist, to help you. It's also just your general actual understanding of that. So the idea of that problem is find the misalignments, and the only way you can get around that is talk about it. Talk about what the issues are affecting you, and work together. If you want to be serious, that's what you would do. And don't be like, sometimes you may be in a relationship and you work with it, and the relationship doesn't work out because of that. Because then you've also going to learn from the next time you go into a relationship, you'll be like, right, I've learned from that, and I know now what I don't want. But most people just talk about is what they want. They don't always talk about what they don't want. So everybody wants to talk about the law of attraction and manifestation, but they don't talk about the law of repulsion, about how what you don't want works. And that's very important. That is a very key solution to helping you with that. Mismatched expectations. So the different idea what casual dating means. So obviously some of the things I've mentioned there are actually about dating more than just casual dating. But again, the expectations of people are very different, and you've got to get that right. And I think it's very key that communicate right. And you know, people get stuck. They do. They get with people and they think this person's going to be right. And then they start dating them and they realize this person's wrong for me. And remember, you're of equal sovereign. You can always say, sorry, this is not working for me. I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me. I don't think we're aligned. I don't think this works. Don't give up straight away, because there's some people that you actually, sometimes it takes a bit longer, but always know and work with your expectation and understand your intention and how that matches. And it's got to match. Absolutely got to match. So this would be the predating, getting to know each other. I think it's vitally important, and I think it's very valid to understand. So I hopefully, if you're going through these issues and you kind of get a bit stuck on these things, please don't hesitate to contact me for a free discovery call on www.richclark.net. And then we can, after you've done your discovery call, we can then work on some ideas of how we can help you with this, and to just give you some hints or some ideas, and even to understand some holistic methods of seeing visualization, or understanding what the past has affected the present, and then actually also see how the future can be altered for you to be in a successful relationship or successful dating history. It's up to you. Anyway, until next time, I shall